Holla ballers, and it only gets worse. The add-on drama in MMOs just took another twist. We're going to be looking today at how pettiness against a 16-year-old turned into a speedrun of ruining your own career. Let's go. If you've been playing MMOs for any amount of time, you've probably come across GSHADE, a popular fork variant of ReShade. It's a simple tool that allows you to change the aesthetic appearance of your video games. It's using settings that you prefer and doesn't affect gameplay in any way other than simply making the games look a little better to your eye. That's what it does. ReShade is just an injector. That's all it does. It's not going to change any of the game files or anything like that. It just makes the whole game look prettier, and it's very popular in Elder Scrolls Online and other MMOs, but particularly in Final Fantasy XIV. Now, third-party tools are, of course, banned in Final Fantasy XIV, as our yesterday's video did reveal to you, and the add-on debacle for the world first continues to go on. However, recently, a person started to get tired with how GSHADE was running things, a player by the name of NotKnight. NotKnight was getting fed up with the sheer amount of updates that GSHADE was forcing upon you when you didn't actually want to change anything, and simply decided to make their own little add-on called GSHADE. This would take the parts of GSHADE that you liked and just put them into the original ReShade so you could get the same results without having to bother with the DRM that GSHADE was forcing upon you. Now, GSHADE was not happy with this. They got angry and commented about an ongoing situation they were dealing with. So, as a result, they decided to add code to the latest GSHADE that meant if you used GSHADE while also having this other program that was using ReShade, it would force restart your PC without any warning whatsoever. In the opinion of the developer of GSHADE, they thought that this GSHADE was actually stealing their copyrighted assets, and therefore saw it as a fitting punishment in order to make them stop using it. So Marot, the developer of GSHADE, said they had put in the command into their program. They publicly announced that yes, they had done this, so that when people who use NotKnight's program, it would be their fault for people having their systems restarted. And they decided to make it just shut down people's computers so that it didn't do any actual harm, but it was just to teach NotKnight and people like them a lesson not to mess with GSHADE. In Discord, Maro also clarified that, hey, I could have put anything into that payload update if I wanted to, and that he decided just to use a simple forced restart, which you had no way of stopping whatsoever, as it wasn't going to damage users, while also making it clear that they should not be using outside software. It should be noted that doing something like this, introducing malware into your software, is illegal in many parts of the world. It seems Marot did not realize this. Now, that does depend on how the laws are interpreted in your relevant country, but it does mean that, considering they blatantly said, yes, I did do this, and I did it out of spite, that there may be legal repercussions. Now, very quickly, this information circulated even to those who were not affected by it, because GSHADE is everywhere. It has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of installs across PCs. This meant that people were like, I'm not happy. The developer has clearly shown a spiteful intention, and if they're not happy, they're going to send vicious code to your PC. We're going to uninstall this software and use something else. And it wouldn't let you. GSHADE would not allow you to uninstall unless you did its latest update. Remember this, we're going to come back to it later. Which meant people were forced to update. And even then, after the uninstall did work, it led to more files being left on your PC. So the community responded by making guides that were publicized all over social media and in very many game discords and on the subreddits as how to actually get rid of all of the GSHADE software that has been put onto your PC. Of course, following this, after a few hours of this software being removed en masse, Marot posted an update that they had taken away the vicious malware from GSHADE and apologized for any stress they caused. But of course, as you guys listening to this who may have GSHADE installed, the damage is done. It turns out NotKnight is just one 16-year-old who went out of their way to get around a problem that they saw didn't need to be dealt with. And remember that GSHADE itself is a fork of another piece of software, an open source piece of software called GSHADE that is completely available and allowed to be edited. Not Night, responding to this outcry across the community, then very quickly, as did many other users, made a new piece of software that would just take all the things from GSHADE that you liked and then put them straight into somewhere else like GSHADE so that you never had to bother with GSHADE ever again, effectively killing GSHADE in 24 hours. But it got worse from there. GitHub, where the GSHADE add-on was hosted, had a look into this and saw the confession of what Marotta did and decided to completely remove GSHADE. GSHADE had already announced that it was not going to be doing any updates following the latest update to its add-on, but GitHub decided to remove it completely so that they have no dealings with a potentially illegal piece of software being hosted on their website. So you should know that from now on, GSHADE is not going to work. You're not going to be able to download it. And of course, there's now many, many, many variations of the software flying around that you can use in an alternative way, ideally by trustworthy sources. So that would apparently be the end and the death of GSHADE. Let's get into this a little bit. First of all, the sheer ego on display here is phenomenal. This is pure ego, pure narcissism at its absolute worst. I don't think I've ever seen a more blatant demonstration of cutting off your nose to spite your face in MMOs in quite some time. I am shocked, absolutely shocked that somebody sat there being a little frustrated with essentially a very simple piece of software that is already duplicated all over the place, while seemingly winning that war, decided to go this far in order to spite one user, not being happy with how their product was being treated. It's unbelievable, to be honest. But let's talk about what they actually did. Now, it force restarted your PC, and in their words, so it would cause no harm. Well, I don't think they ever really considered the fact that somebody might be working on a project, just logging into the game, updating their add-ons, and getting things ready for later on, or even taking a half-hour break, writing something important for university. There are many, many people across all age groups who are playing these games, and they simply might have been working on something else and managed to get their game up on their lunch break or whatever it might be, and then you force restart their PC, and it's a very, very high chance that they may lose all their work if it is not auto-saved. I consider that a lot of harm. I consider that very harmful. I can go back to my university days of studying for my degree, doing my dissertation, and regularly would I log into games during downtime or when I was a bit fried in order to relax for an hour or so, and then losing all my work would just not be acceptable, especially if I've been working on it for several hours beforehand. Not to mention the sheer damage that can happen with forced restarts. Many of us have had the time when our PCs have just restarted and then for some reason there's an issue when you relog back in because it happened outside of your control. These things happen regularly. These things do cause harm. Now, to go this far and introduce this kind of software also makes you wonder, what else would this person do? Because they have clearly shown a spiteful nature if you are doing things that they don't agree with, or quite frankly, what lengths they will go to. Now, nobody's saying they did, but once you have revealed your personality that way, once you have shown your willingness to be malicious and to be vicious, there's no telling what they're going to do next, especially when it came to forcibly updating that software before you could uninstall it. That level of distrust is magnified massively. There's no telling that a little extra piece of code is put into that new update that needs you to uninstall that's going to take every piece of information on your PC as much as possible, especially when Marotta confirms that I could have had this piece of software do anything I wanted. This is extremely scary stuff, and there is a very good reason that even big software companies do not forcibly make you update your software. Even Apple, of all people, does not forcibly make you update your software. They will remind you of it regularly, but they do not force you to do it. Sure, down the line, your apps may stop working if you're not using the latest software, but they're still not going to forcibly update your software. Neither does Nvidia, neither does Microsoft, neither does all these people. To take something as simple as video game aesthetic adjustments and make these kinds of decisions is honestly baffling. It's absolutely baffling when you can clearly see that this is just not allowed. This is not okay. And now putting people in the situation of forcing them to download more things from your website after you have shown that you are very, very capable of putting malicious software into your stuff is just unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. And this person's reputation will be forever tarnished with what was a simple gig that was probably earning them a reasonable amount of money to live on from donations and all the things like that other people could make within 24 hours, which is exactly what we saw happen. GSHADE has been around for a long time, and now we see people who are like, oh, this is going away? Well, here, this is not too difficult to take all this stuff. It's simply just not that difficult for people who know how to do it in order to take all these things away and make your software completely irrelevant overnight. This is a very scary situation, as to know that many of us install add-ons across a variety of games, whether the game accepts it or not. We look at something like World of Warcraft, many of us have 10 or 12 add-ons installed, and there is a trust in place that nothing malicious is going to exist within there. And of course, add-on hosting sites take great lengths to make sure that does not happen. And now we get a wake up from the community in the wake of the add-on drama in FF14 that in fact, you have to be extra careful. You have to be extra careful. And when software developers show their hand like this, that you respond in kind. So if you're out there and you've got GSHADE installed and you're wondering why I can't update it or I can't reinstall it in a fresh install, now you know. As far as it is concerned, this software just no longer exists. And Marot, the developer of it, simply has nowhere to go. I'd love to see your thoughts on this. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you again. Bye-bye.